Today, we're going to talk about the importance of mental fortitude for new and aspiring entrepreneurs. Although I feel like this can apply to anyone who is trying to build or create something. Success isn't just about what you do, it's about how you think, how you handle discomfort, and the mindset you bring to the process. If you're chasing something bigger in business, life, or anything in between, this is the part that matters the most. I tend to be a serial entrepreneur. And something that I've learned in all of those iterations of business is that taking something from an idea to reality is 90% mental. Yes, there's strategy. Yes, there is planning and process and product placement, all of those things. But when it comes down to launching a business and getting to the point where you can scale it, it is all mental. I do think that this topic is most helpful new and aspiring entrepreneurs because this is a subject that is not talked about in a thorough way. And whenever it is talked about, it's usually by people who have already really made it to where they wanted to be. So it can come off as like out of touch. They don't understand. And a lot of times, aspiring entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs, really brush off the advice that they're given. But the important thing for you to know is that your mental fortitude can make or break your business. So let's start by talking about the journey and how it will really look. Now, there is a perception that a lot of people hold based on what they see online. And it's that you're going to have this idea and you're going to spend a certain amount of time pursuing that idea. And that pursuit is all about building it. It's about the strategy, the design, the planning, whatever type of business it is. For this video, we'll probably talk a lot about e-com. So maybe this is developing your product, sampling, planning it out, planning, what does your audience look like? How are you going to market it? All of that. And you spend all of this time, this block of time, pursuing a certain date, which is your launch. And you think about that launch, and a lot of people take on the assumption that it'll immediately take off. You're going to immediately start selling and selling and selling, and it's just going to be upward progress. This progress, this upward movement, the selling out of product, it's possible. Now, what makes it possible is if you have an existing engaged audience. So if you have a personal brand that has a lot of engaged followers and things like that, and you want to start an e-com brand, you can probably sell your product. Or if you've done a lot of groundwork prior to launch to build out your audience and engage them and get them bought in on your product before you sell it, then you might be good. But for most people, that is not the case. For a lot of people, they don't start building their audience until they're ready to go live. Because the reality is, a lot of new entrepreneurs do not have the capital to spend to build an audience. And they also aren't willing to take the time to build it organically. So what ends up happening on this day, on launch day for this business, is that there is a trickle. I can't even draw a line that shows how small that growth can be. But maybe you have the early adopters who buy in immediately. This could mean 100 sales if you have that existing audience, but it could also mean 2 sales. It could mean very low numbers. And you'll have this initial bump. And typically what I've seen happen in my own businesses, but also what I know has happened with many people I've talked to, is that there is, I'll draw this kind of bigger, there's an immediate downturn after that initial bump. So you have this progress where maybe you have some people sign up, you have some purchases, whatever it is, and you get really excited and you're like, okay, here we go. This is it. Because I think that's something that a lot of us get trapped into, is thinking every time we do something, this is going to be the one. And it can be. But if you're putting that expectation on something immediately and not staying very stable mentally, then it's not going to go well for you. Because you have to be prepared for this dip. Now, this dip here is probably the hardest thing I've experienced as an entrepreneur, and the hardest thing that a lot of people I know have gone through, because you have no idea how long this is going to last. No, I'm not saying this drops down and you have 0 sales, 0 signups, 0 progress. Not at all. But that is often what it can feel like. You have an initial momentum and you think we're going to keep going up, but then it drops off. And it feels like things get really stagnant. Nothing's moving, nothing's happening. Why am I even doing this? This is where all of the self-doubt comes into play. I think that the hardest thing about this period is that you have no idea how long it'll last, and ultimately it's up to you and whether or not you want to persist. So this could take a very long time to eventually start to grow. right? Or it could be more of a temporary dip where you can then take off from there. And there's no way to know. But what is most important is that in this period, in this block of time where you're waiting for that exponential growth that may or may not come, is that you commit to your goal. You commit to your journey. Because if you can stand by it and continue to optimize and iterate and learn and push and not get desperate, not kind of squeeze the life out of your business and your project, then you can find that growth. Then you can get to this curve where things get exciting. Now, we already kind of talked about it, but I want to talk about it more. And that's your commitment. Oftentimes, I see entrepreneurs getting into business because they want very quick wins. They want something that is going to make them money overnight. They say, I saw this guy on YouTube who started drop shipping. He made 10K in a month. That's great. But what you have to know is that those people who are shouting those numbers very loudly, number one, they're either lying, or number two, they're outliers. Oftentimes, it might be a little bit of both. I'm not questioning all the people who find immediate success in things, but I know how easy it is to take numbers and represent them in a way that makes you look very, very good. But the people that you look at that are making a lot of money, doing very, very well, usually had a very, very slow journey. This makes me think about someone like Daniel Dalen, who has openly talked about how he has pursued many things before. He lost it all, had to start from scratch, and now he has found his success. That took him years and years of work. So why should you expect to find that overnight? Another example to think about is Minted New York. It's easy to look at that brand now and understand how successful they are. It feels like it happened very quickly, but the reality is they're in year like 4 or 5 of their business. I remember whenever they were dropping, small batches of sweatshirts and just small numbers of products so that they could slowly grow over time. And the thing is, they invested, I think, like 7K into that business, and they have bootstrapped it since. And something like that takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of commitment to your end goal. My key to commitment is a lot different than what a lot of people would say. A lot of entrepreneurs will tell you that you have to know and feel that you will succeed no matter what. Just be very persistent with that mindset. Do not accept that failure can be a thing. It's not for you, all of that. I approach it differently because I know that a very, very high percentage of businesses do not work out. I've had businesses that haven't worked out, and I have businesses that have worked out. That's just the name of the game. But what you need to do is you need to accept failure as a possibility, because it is. No matter what you're doing, no matter how good your idea is, no matter how much you have to invest initially, failure is absolutely a possibility, and the odds probably aren't in your favor. Now, once you can accept this and say, okay, I know that, I understand it, I'm willing to embrace it, the question to ask yourself is, do you still do it? Do you still build the business? Do you still pursue this? If you know the odds are stacked against you, are you committed enough to yourself and the goals and the dreams and the life that you want that you're willing to still go after it, put your all into it, and take that risk? If the answer to this is yes, then you're absolutely ready. Then you're ready to go forward. If the answer is not an immediate yes, then you need to take a minute. You need to take some time, because a lot of people struggle to embrace failure as an option. And then whenever they experience something they perceive as failure, maybe that's a day without a sale or a sign up, anything like that, then they crash out and they panic and they think like, why have I done this? And they start to feel regret. But if you understand this journey that we talked about, and that you'll probably experience that like valley of disappointment, and you don't know how long it's going to last, if you're willing to go through that period and persist, and you're also willing to accept failure as a possibility, then mentally you're in a very, very good spot to actually pursue business and succeed in business. Now, the third and final thing I want to talk about in this video, because I'm sure I'll talk about mental fortitude throughout this entire series, is stability. Now, when you're a founder, when you're a business owner, operator, whatever it is, you experience very high highs and very low lows. Because a lot of times what we do is we attach so much of our emotional health to our business. So if a sale comes through, immediately that's like injected into our veins and we are absolutely hype. And then again, if we have a day where nothing happens, nothing comes through, it plummets. So what this looks like is a constant oscillation of these peaks and valleys. And this will never end. And maybe this oscillation is still taking you upward. That's the goal. But it's still going to feel like this. Even if you're going upward, those valleys will still feel pretty bad. And those peaks will feel phenomenal. So I want you to look at this and consider kind of the stable middle ground of this. And understand that the important part is that you are able to manage just how high the highs are and just how low the lows are. So in these moments, whenever you're feeling like you're on top of the world, how do you react? If you are immediately going on a spending spree, throwing a party, celebrating, acting like, it's the biggest day of your life every single time, then you are setting yourself up for so much disappointment. But if you are able to take it and say, cool, this is good, I am grateful for that, I am happy it's happening, and now we move on. If you're able to do that and stay not completely neutral, but just more level-headed, it's going to benefit you. Similarly here, on these lows, how do you react? Now, I think that this is something that kills a lot of business owners. This is what burns them out. This is what gets them exhausted. It's what gets them overly emotional and reactive, is that they're letting themselves celebrate too high and they're also letting themselves drop too low. So in these moments where something doesn't work out in the way that you want it to, whether it's like the business's performance or there's a logistical issue or an issue with a partner you're working with, anything like that, there's so many things that go wrong. How do you show up? How do you react? Are you immediately saying, this is the worst day of my life, everything's going to fail, this is awful, why is this happening to me? And taking it very personally. Are you reacting like that? Are you getting pissed off and yelling and getting angry? Or are you able to stay stable? So what this looks like in practice is we're going to draw our stable middle ground again. If you are able to control your reactions either way, then what this looks like is there is still oscillation, but it stays much closer to that middle. So yes, you can celebrate these highs, but it's like I said, you should show gratitude. You should acknowledge it. You can sit in that moment and appreciate it for a minute. You never want to brush off a win. You don't want to say, that's expected, whatever, we'll move on. You want to pull in that energy and embrace it. So don't ignore the good things that happen, but take a moment for it. Don't be overreactive to it, and then move on. Stay as close to that stable middle ground as you can. And then the same thing down here is don't take every speed bump personally. There will be things that go wrong. There will be things that don't work out in the way that you want to. There will be things that are potentially detrimental to the business that happen. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you. But if you are able to stay very stable, very level-headed, not only are you going to make better decisions and have a clear head whenever you're trying to approach the problem solving, but it's also going to have less impact on you emotionally. So it's separating yourself from those outcomes in a way. It's saying, yes, this happened, but it's not personal. It's not happening to me. It's just happening, and it's separate from myself. Then you're able to look at it more as a third party and say, okay, what is the logical way to approach this? Something that I tend to do whenever I'm experiencing one of these lows is I try to view it like it's happening to one of my clients and not to me. So if they were experiencing this, how would I advise that they move forward? What would I do to remediate it, to fix it, and move forward? Now, like I said, there is an entire world to the mental fortitude of entrepreneurs, how important it is, and I could talk for hours about it. But these three pieces are, in my opinion, the most important to understand whenever you are building a business, especially whenever you are building your first business. If you can nail these things down and understand them and understand how to stay stable, how to stay strong, then that is going to guarantee that you can persist whenever times get really hard and they will.